The desperate signal, the warning alarm screamed through the corridors of the Starforge as Commander Zara Thorne watched her civilization die. Through the massive viewing ports of the bridge, she could see the once beautiful colonies of the Viridian Republic being consumed by something that shouldn't exist. Dark shapes moved between the stars like hungry shadows, each one the size of a moon, systematically devouring everything in their path. "Commander, we're receiving the final transmission from New Meridia," reported Lieutenant Cale Oren, his normally steady voice cracking with emotion. The young officer had family on that world, had being the key word now. Zara closed her eyes for a moment, steeling herself for what she knew would be another death cry from one of their worlds. "Put it through." The static-filled voice of Governor Helena Voss filled the bridge. "This is New Meridia to any Viridian ship still out there. The swarm has reached our atmosphere. They're not just taking our resources, they're taking our people. The lucky ones die quickly. The others, they become part of it. Part of that thing. If anyone receives this message, tell the galaxy what happened here. Tell them the Dominion swarm cannot be stopped. Tell them to run." The transmission cut to static, then silence. Another world, another 3 billion Viridians gone, consumed, converted into biomass for creatures that had been sleeping in the dark between galaxies for millions of years until something had awakened them. "How many ships do we have left?" Zara asked, though she dreaded the answer. 17, Commander," replied her tactical officer, Major Derek Cross. "Most are civilian transports carrying refugees. Only 5 are military vessels, and 3 of those are barely spaceworthy. 17 ships. The Viridian Republic had once commanded a fleet of 8,000 vessels across 47 star systems. Now they were down to 17 ships and maybe 2 million survivors scattered across space. The Dominion swarm had accomplished in 6 months what no enemy had managed in 8 centuries of Viridian history: complete annihilation. Dr. Elena Vasquez emerged from the ship's research laboratory, her usually pristine lab coat stained with days of frantic work. As the Republic's leading xenobiologist, she had been studying the swarm since they first appeared. The results of her research had terrified even the bravest military commanders. "Commander, I need to speak with you privately," Elena said, her accent thick with exhaustion. She had been working without sleep for 3 days straight. Zara nodded and led Elena to her private office behind the bridge. The small room felt cramped with both women inside, but it offered privacy from the crew who were already scared enough. "Tell me you found something," Zara said. "Anything." Elena activated a holographic display showing the internal structure of one of the swarm creatures. The image made Zara's stomach turn. What they had thought were ships were actually living organisms, each one a colony creature made up of millions of smaller parasites working together. "They're not from our galaxy," Elena began. "The biomarkers don't match anything in our databases. I believe they're ancient, possibly the first intelligent life forms that evolved anywhere in the universe. They survived by consuming other civilizations, growing stronger with each conquest." "That's terrifying, but it doesn't help us fight them," Zara pointed out. "No, but this might." Elena changed the holographic display to show a complex communication array. "I've been working on modifying our long-range transmitters. If I can boost the signal enough, we can send a message not just across our galaxy, but to neighboring galaxies as well." Zara stared at the plans. "You want to call for help from aliens we've never met? It's our only chance. The swarm has consumed 37 different species in our galaxy over the past 6 months. They're not just killing us, they're learning from us. Each world they take makes them smarter, stronger, more efficient at killing, but somewhere out there might be a species that has faced something like this before." The commander walked to the small window in her office and looked out at the stars. Each point of light might represent a world full of people like her own, people with families, dreams, hopes for the future, people who didn't deserve to be consumed by ancient nightmares. "Do it," she said finally. "What do you need?" "Time and power. I'll need to reroute energy from life support and weapons systems. The transmission will leave us vulnerable, but if no one answers..." Elena didn't finish that sentence. They both knew what would happen if no one answered. 3 hours later, Elena had completed her modifications to the communication array. The entire crew of the Starforge had gathered on the bridge to witness what might be their species' final act, a desperate plea for help broadcast into the unknown. The message will be transmitted in 17 different mathematical languages, Elena explained as she made final adjustments. If there are advanced civilizations out there, they should be able to decode it. Zara stood beside the communication station and began recording. To any civilization capable of receiving this transmission, this is Commander Zara Thorne of the Viridian Republic. Our worlds are being consumed by an ancient enemy we call the Dominion Swarm. They are creatures that feed on entire civilizations, growing stronger with each conquest. We have lost 47 worlds and billions of our people. We do not expect rescue, but we hope someone will remember that we existed and fought until the end. If you can hear this message, do not let the swarm find your worlds. Run. Hide. Survive. She paused, looking around at her crew. These brave people deserved better than to die forgotten in the darkness between stars. We are transmitting our historical and scientific databases along with this message. If we cannot survive, perhaps our knowledge can help others. This is our final gift to the galaxy. May whoever receives this message have better luck than we did. Elena activated the transmission array, and the message shot out into space at faster than light speeds, carrying with it the desperate hope of a dying civilization. Meanwhile, 40,000 light-years away on a small blue planet called Earth, Admiral Marcus Stone was reviewing supply reports in his office at the Pacific Defense Command. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon, and the biggest problem facing Earth's military was a budget dispute over new fighter designs. Lieutenant Sarah Chen burst into his office without knocking, something she had never done in her 5 years of service. "Admiral, you need to see this immediately." Marcus looked up from his paperwork, noting the excitement and fear in Sarah's eyes. "What is it, Lieutenant?" "Sir, we've received a transmission from outside our galaxy. It's from aliens, and they're asking for help." Marcus set down his coffee, cup very carefully. Humanity had been searching for signs of alien life for centuries without success. Now aliens were calling them directly. "Show me." Sarah led him to the communication center, where a team of linguists and scientists were working frantically to decode the message. Dr. James Park, Earth's leading expert in xenolinguistics, looked up as they approached. "Admiral, this is incredible. The message uses 17 different mathematical systems to ensure comprehension. Whoever sent this is incredibly advanced, but they're also desperate." Marcus listened to the translated message, his expression growing darker with each word. Ancient creatures consuming civilizations, billions dead, a plea for help from species they'd never met. "How long ago was this sent?" he asked. "Based on the transmission degradation, approximately 6 weeks ago, sir. If these Viridians are still alive, they won't be for much longer." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, thinking about the implications. Earth had barely achieved faster-than-light travel 5 years ago. Their military was designed to fight other humans, not ancient cosmic horrors. But somewhere out there, people were dying, and they had asked for help. "Get me President Chen on the emergency line," he ordered. "And wake up everyone on the Defense Council. We need an immediate meeting." 2 hours later, Marcus sat in the Situation Room beneath the White House, surrounded by the most powerful people on Earth. President Lisa Chen sat at the head of the table, her expression grave as she listened to the alien message for the 3rd time. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," she said. "We've received a distress call from aliens who are being wiped out by other aliens, and they want our help." "That's correct, Madam President," Marcus replied. "The Viridians have transmitted their entire cultural and scientific database along with the message. Our scientists are analyzing it now, but initial reports suggest they're telling the truth." Secretary of Defense Robert Martinez leaned forward. "What are we actually talking about here in terms of military commitment? We have 47 FTL-capable warships, most of them exploratory vessels. We've never fought a battle in deep space." Captain Maria Santos, commander of Earth's 1st Interstellar Fighter Squadron, spoke up. "Sir, we may not have experience with space battles, but humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We understand tactics, strategy, and adaptation. These swarm creatures might not expect that kind of flexibility. Dr. Angela Foster from the Science Council added, "There's also the technological exchange to consider. The Viridian database contains scientific advances that could benefit humanity for generations. But more importantly, if these swarm creatures continue consuming civilizations, they might eventually find Earth." The debate continued for hours. Some argued that Earth should remain hidden and safe. Others insisted that humanity had a moral obligation to help people who were facing extinction. Finally, President Chen called for a vote. All in favor of providing military assistance to the Viridian Republic? One by one, hands rose around the table. The vote was unanimous. "Then it's decided," President Chen announced. "Admiral Stone, you'll command the mission. Take our best ships and our best people. Show the galaxy what humanity is capable of." As the meeting ended, Marcus felt the weight of history settling on his shoulders. In 72 hours, he would lead humanity's first military expedition beyond their galaxy. They might succeed and save an entire civilization. They might fail and never return home. But they were going to try. Because that's what humans did. When someone called for help, they answered. When Earth arrived, the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of what had once been the Viridian Republic, and Admiral Marcus Stone immediately understood why the aliens had sounded so desperate. Through the main viewer of the EDF determination, he watched massive dark shapes moving between dead worlds like cancerous tumors in space. "My God," whispered Captain Elena Rodriguez from the tactical station. "How big are those things?" Lieutenant, Commander Jason Park consulted his sensors. "The largest ones are roughly the size of Earth's moon, Admiral. But they're not ships. They're alive. Organic readings across the board." Marcus studied the tactical display showing 17 human warships against what looked like hundreds of the swarm creatures. The odds were impossible, but humanity had faced impossible odds before. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported Communications Officer Lisa Wong. "It's weak, but it's definitely Viridian. Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was tired, defeated, but still fighting. "Unknown vessels, this is Commander Zara Thorne of the Viridian Starforge. You need to leave this system immediately. The Dominion swarm will detect you and add your ships to their collective. Please save yourselves." Marcus activated the communication system. "Commander Thorne, this is Admiral Marcus Stone of the Earth Defense Force. We received your message and came to help." The silence that followed lasted so long that Marcus wondered if the transmission had been cut. Finally, Zara's voice returned, filled with disbelief. You actually came. You traveled between galaxies to help people you've never met? That's what humans do, Commander. We don't leave people behind." Dr. Elena Vasquez appeared on the communication screen, her face streaked with tears. "Admiral, you don't understand. What you're facing, the swarm doesn't just kill, it learns, it adapts. Every ship they consume makes them stronger and smarter." Marcus looked around his bridge at the determined faces of his crew. These were people who had volunteered for a mission they might not survive, all to help strangers. "Then we'd better make sure they don't get the chance to learn from us. Commander Thorne, what's the tactical situation?" "We have 16 ships left, mostly civilian transports with refugees. The swarm is preparing to assault our final stronghold on Viridian Prime. Once they take that planet, the last 2 billion of our people will be gone." Captain Rodriguez pulled up a strategic display. "Admiral, if we can draw the swarm away from the planet, the Viridians might be able to evacuate more civilians." "My thoughts exactly." Marcus opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone. We're going to do something these swarm creatures have never seen before. We're going to attack them directly. Remember, we're not here to win a war. We're here to buy time for innocent people to escape. Make every shot count." The human fleet moved into formation, their ships small and fast compared to the massive swarm creatures. As they approached the outer edge of the swarm, the alien creatures began to respond, turning their attention away from Viridian Prime. "Sir, the swarm entities are moving to intercept us," reported Lieutenant Park. "But they're moving in predictable patterns, like they're following some kind of programmed behavior." Captain Santos, commanding the fighter squadron, spoke over the comm. Admiral, these things fight like they've never faced unpredictable opponents. They expect their enemies to run or die in place. Then let's show them something new, Marcus replied. All fighters, execute pattern Delta 7. The human fighters scattered in seemingly random directions, confusing the swarm creatures who had expected a conventional attack formation. The ancient aliens tried to adapt, but human military doctrine was built on flexibility and surprise. Fighter pilot Lieutenant Jake Morrison dove his craft between two massive swarm entities, firing concentrated plasma bursts at what his sensors indicated were nerve clusters. These things have weak points. They're not used to being hurt. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. The swarm creatures were individually more powerful than human ships, but they fought like they had for millions of years, with overwhelming force against terrified prey. Humans fought like humans, with cunning, creativity, and absolute refusal to surrender. Commander Thorn, Marcus called to the Viridian ship. We need you to target the smaller swarm entities supporting the big ones. Cut off their supply lines. Zara's voice came back excited for the first time in months. Admiral, your tactics are working. The swarm is confused. They're not coordinating like before. Dr. Vasquez had been monitoring the battle from her laboratory, aboard the Starforge. Admiral Stone, I'm detecting something interesting. The swarm entities communicate through bioelectric pulses. If we could disrupt those signals, we could blind them, Marcus finished. Dr. Vasquez, can you modify our electromagnetic pulse weapons to target their communication frequency? Give me 20 minutes. The human fleet held their ground for 20 minutes against impossible odds, using hit-and-run tactics and unpredictable maneuvers to stay alive. Ships were damaged, people were injured, but they didn't retreat. Admiral, we have the modification ready, Dr. Vasquez announced. All ships, prepare to fire EMP weapons on my mark, Marcus ordered. Target the largest swarm entity. 3, 2, 1, mark. The coordinated electromagnetic pulse struck the massive swarm creature at the center of their formation. The effect was immediate and devastating. The creature writhed in apparent agony, and every smaller entity connected to it stopped moving. It worked, shouted Lieutenant Park. They're completely disconnected from each other, but their celebration was short-lived. Deep within the swarm collective, something ancient and malevolent turned its attention to these new opponents. The Swarm Queen, a creature the size of a small planet that had been dormant at the edge of the system, began to move. Admiral, Zara's voice was filled with terror. You've awakened the Queen. Nothing has ever survived an encounter with her. The massive creature emerged from behind a dead moon, its surface covered with what looked like cities but were actually organs of destruction. It was beautiful and horrible at the same time, like a living work of art designed by nightmares. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Marcus ordered, but he knew it might not be enough. Then something unexpected happened. The surviving Viridian ships moved to form a protective line between the human fleet and the Swarm Queen. What are you doing? Marcus demanded. You came to save us, Zara replied simply. Now it's our turn to save you. But humans don't abandon their allies. Like hell, Marcus growled. All ships attack formation. We finish this together. Dr. Vasquez had been studying the Queen's biosignatures. Admiral, the Queen is the central nervous system for the entire swarm. If we can overload her neural pathways, we kill the whole collective, Marcus realized. But we'd need to get close enough to target her directly. Captain Rodriguez stood up from her station. Sir, I volunteer to take a fighter squadron in close. If we can plant EMP charges directly on her neural clusters. It's a suicide mission, Marcus pointed out. Maybe. But if it works, we save billions of lives across the galaxy. The combined human and Viridian fleet launched their final assault on the Swarm Queen. Fighters dodged between bioweapon discharges while capital ships provided covering fire. It was chaos, but it was organized chaos, the kind humans excelled at. Captain Rodriguez and her squadron managed to reach the Queen's surface, planting specially modified EMP charges at key neural junction points. As they pulled away, she activated the charges remotely. The explosion wasn't visible, but its effects were immediate. The swarm queen convulsed, and across the entire system, every swarm entity suddenly stopped moving. The ancient collective that had consumed hundreds of civilizations was finally silent. In the aftermath of the battle, human and Viridian ships worked together to rescue survivors and begin the long process of rebuilding. More importantly, they had sent a message across the galaxy: the Dominion swarm could be defeated. "Admiral Stone," Commander Thorne said as their ships rendezvoused near Viridian Prime, "how can we ever thank you? You saved our entire civilization." "You don't need to thank us," Marcus replied. "We're all part of the same galaxy now. When one of us is threatened, all of us respond." Dr. Vasquez and her human counterparts were already working together, sharing technology and knowledge that would benefit both species for generations. The Viridian database had taught humans about faster-than-light communication, while human, military innovations had shown the galaxy new ways to fight impossible enemies. Within weeks, the story of humanity's intervention had spread across dozens of star systems. Other species began reaching out, some asking for help with their own problems, others offering alliance and friendship. Earth was no longer alone in the universe. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not with conquest or colonization, but by answering a call for help from strangers. And across the stars, civilizations that had cowered in fear of ancient evils began to hope again, because now they knew that somewhere out there were people called humans who would cross the void between galaxies just to help someone in need. The age of humanity among the stars had begun,